My dearest, there is something weighing on my heart that I can no longer keep hidden, a truth I have guarded for far too long. Tonight I need to unfasten every lock and let you see the fragile pieces I have kept in the dark. You deserve the full story, not fragmented hints or polite evasions. I remember vividly this season when we were weaving dreams together, sketching houseplants on napkins, conjuring the laughter of children we hadn't met yet, mapping holidays that stretched decades into the future. In those moments, every breath I took was filled with certainty. I saw only you when I pictured forever. The world beyond our shared vision felt peripheral, as if reality itself paused whenever we spoke about building a life side by side. But shadows often creep in at the edges of bright landscapes, and mine arrived in the form of hushed conversations with my mother. In the beginning, her comments were so small they barely registered. A gentle question about whether we were rushing, a curious glance when your name surfaced at dinner. I brushed them away the way one might sweep a single petal from a path, without thought or worry. Yet petals became leaves, leaves became branches, and soon an entire forest of doubt took root where confidence once flourished. Night after night, she invited me into the kitchen after the rest of the house slept. Her voice threaded with urgency I mistook for love's protection. She insisted she was safeguarding my future, shielding me from heartache I was too dazzled to see. I argued, at first softly, then with trembling anger, telling her the only safeguard I needed was the devotion we shared. Still, her words coiled around my thoughts like vines. She painted pictures so vivid I found myself wandering inside them against my will. Scenes of disapproving neighbors, of whispered judgments in grocery aisles, of children who might question why their parents were marked by so many calendars. Age gaps carry costs you cannot predict, she warned. They seem invisible when the heart is flushed with passion, yet they reveal themselves in the quiet hours of a long marriage. She spoke of potential medical worries, of career timelines misaligned, of milestones reached at different rhythms until companionship fractured into loneliness. I can still feel the heat of her hand on mine the night she looked directly into my eyes and said, "If you marry someone so much older, you sentence yourself to a future of silent regret." For days, her voice echoed louder than my own. I woke each dawn reciting her cautions, rehearsing her prophecies, until fear eclipsed the certainty that had once lit my skin from within. I hated myself for wavering, yet I doubted whether love alone could conquer the avalanche of what ifs she unleashed. Eventually, I surrendered to that fear. I convinced myself I was being prudent, mature, responsible. I told you I needed time, but the time I asked for became the distance that pushed us to opposite shores. I broke the vows we had not yet spoken, and in doing so I broke my own spirit as well. What I never revealed is that, soon after, I married someone my mother deemed perfectly appropriate. He ticked every box on her silent checklist. Similar age, similar background, polished manners, a family lineage that wouldn't ruffle neighborhood gossip. On paper, we were the portrait of sensible compatibility. In reality, it was a union built not on affection, but on appeasement. I walked down that aisle with a hollow smile, the scent of roses mingling with the bitter tang of self-betrayal. With every promise I spoke to him, an unspoken apology thundered inside me for you. The years since have unfolded like a play performed without conviction. Walls that should echo with shared laughter reverberate instead with small talk politeness. We discuss weather patterns, grocery lists, the safest funds for retirement. Yet none of it feels like living, only surviving in a script someone else wrote. I rise each morning beside a man whose eyes mirror resignation. We are both actors trapped in a scene we cannot rewrite. I used to believe emptiness was a void, but I have learned it can be a crowd of unnecessary things. Tidy rooms devoid of music, photo frames filled with smiles that never reach the soul, plates of dinner eaten in polite silence. And your absence is everywhere. In the musicality that's missing from dinner table banter, in the kind of argument that ends with laughter instead of slammed doors, in the adventure of spontaneous road trips abandoned for fear of seeming irresponsible. I imagine what our living room would look like with your favorite vintage posters lining the walls. What our weekends would taste like if we chased food trucks instead of sticking to neatly planned brunches. I imagine the children we might have coaxed into the world, each one a constellation of our shared quirks. Children who would have learned that love matters more than numbers on a birth certificate or approval stamped by outsiders. The regret is vast, but there is another confession I must entrust to you, one bound not in sorrow alone but in a cautious shimmer of hope. I sense a turning point racing toward you, especially in matters of prosperity. Perhaps the universe, in its intricate balancing, intends to lift at least one burden from your shoulders even as I return this weight to my own. A financial door that once seemed barred is swinging open. It may look like a sale finalized after endless delays, an investment maturing sooner than expected, or a promotion no longer stalled by office politics. However it arrives, it promises to steady your footing and hush the constant hum of worry at the back of your mind. I can almost picture it. The email that lands in your inbox with an extra zero you weren't anticipating. The unexpected phone call confirming funds released. The moment you realize you can exhale without counting the days until the next bill comes due. This is not a call to reckless celebration. Your instinct for caution has always been one of your quiet superpowers, but rather an invitation to breathe deeper, to explore possibilities once considered luxuries. Maybe it's the art class you postponed, the travel itinerary you kept bookmarking then closing, the entrepreneurial seed idea waiting for a little initial capital and a leap of faith. Use this season to say yes to something that nourishes you, and yes to generosity that multiplies joy in those around you. Even with improved finances, challenges will still surface. Money never silences every storm. It merely buys sturdier sails. Yet I believe this gain will restore confidence where anxiety built fences, and that confidence will ripple outward in ways you cannot yet measure. Approach each new choice with the balance you embody so well, equal parts prudence and wonder. Let your heart decide what deserves investment of time, energy, and resources, and let your logical mind ensure the numbers align with sustainability. Your natural equilibrium between head and heart will guide you toward expansion that honors both. I share this forecast not to distract from the wound I opened, but to acknowledge the broader tapestry of your life. You have always carried resilience like a hidden crown, and soon the material world will mirror the worth that has long shone inside you. My greatest wish is that your coming prosperity becomes a launch pad for dreams instead of another cage of responsibility. Too often we let financial upticks reinforce old routines. Promise yourself now you will let it fuel the life you actually want. And what of us, of the tangled roots that now lie exposed between confession and possibility? I do not deliver these revelations with expectations or demands. I am painfully aware no apology, however sincere, can rewind calendars or scrub away every scar my silence carved. I come simply to lay the truth at your feet and to say, I see now how fear masqueraded as wisdom. I see how choosing safety cost me the very aliveness I once held sacred. And I see you, still radiant on the horizon of my memory, a lighthouse I steered away from because someone else mistook its brilliance for danger. If anger flares inside you, let it burn. It is a fire I ignited. If grief rises, let the waves crash. I will not attempt to quiet them with excuses. Yet if, through the smoke and foam, even a fragment of compassion remains, know that it will be the gentlest mercy ever granted me. I am learning that life is measured not only by the integrity of our beginnings, but by the courage with which we own our missteps. Tonight is my first true act of courage in years. Where my path goes from here is uncertain. Some marriages can be untangled cleanly. Others become knots no lawyer can sever without tearing everything around them. I do not yet know what freedom will cost. What I do know is that the truest freedom begins inside, the moment we stop lying to ourselves, to the ones who loved us, to the very breath in our lungs. Tonight, I breathe honesty. If the next inhalation tastes of pain, so be it. Pain is at least real. Pretense is poison. As I close this letter, my words hover between past and future regret and reverence. I once promised to build a life with you. Instead, I built a prison for myself and a wound for you. I cannot undo that architecture, but I can dismantle it piece by piece, beginning with this confession. The rest depends on time, on healing, on whatever choices you and I each make in the dawning days. Hold fast to the fortune that's coming, financial, emotional, spiritual. Let it remind you that the universe still bends toward abundance, even when human frailty interrupts its flow. And if you ever find a margin in your flourishing to look back toward me, know that a heart once silenced by doubt is now knocking against its own ribs, determined to speak only truth. May every step you take from this moment forward be anchored in self-respect, uplifted by hope, and accompanied, always, by the steady pulse of a love that knows its own worth. Forever humbled, the one who finally found the courage to tell you everything.